Commissioner Ward,
Here.
Commissioner McGorty,
Here.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Here.
Commissioner Roden,
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Present.
Commissioner Winkle,
Here.
and Commissioner Hashak. And we have a quorum. Also present are staff members Executive Officer Uma Hinman, Analyst Larkin Filer, and Legal Counsel Marcia Birch.
Thank you, Larkin. You'll note that we are a few commissioners short today, including our chair and vice chair. So I will go ahead and lead us through the next few items, and item 4 on our agenda will be selection of interim officers. So with that, I'll move to item 2, AB 361, remote teleconferencing action. We're looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2022-2305 to allow our remote conferencing to continue for the next 30 days.
So move.
Gonzalez seconds.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Any public comment? Larkin, please do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item 3, public expression. This is the time on the agenda when members of the public may bring forward comments on items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission, please come forward. For those participating remotely, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. Is there anyone wishing to speak today?
I wish to speak, but Zoom won't let me raise my hand.
Thank you, Mr. Tetzlaff. Please go ahead.
I'm very concerned about the Mendocino City Community Services District and their groundwater management plans, their most recent attempt at raising millions of dollars for groundwater management when it's clearly a program that does not work. CALAFCO's role is to be monitoring efficient and rational delivery of services for small districts, and there's certainly nothing efficient going on over there concerning groundwater management, nor is it rational to think that any millions of dollars could be spent to save some amount of water, which can't be determined. So I'm very concerned that the district is getting out of control here. Groundwater management is just not, it's become just a boondoggle that's inefficient. It's not accomplishing anything and costing a tremendous amount of money, and they want more money into the millions of dollars. So I guess I'm kind of lost. I'm hoping LAFCO can maybe take a closer look at this and then help the situation out and either make it work. They don't supply anyone water. They don't subsidize any of our well costs, maintenance costs. This is a fee that we give to them. So they tell us how much water we can take from the ground, and essentially we get no value from it whatsoever. They can't demonstrate how much water they're saving, and if they want to spend millions of dollars, there should be some sort of return of investment number here. How much water are we saving for the millions of dollars they're going to spend trying to do that? So I think it's completely misguided, and I really think it needs some further review, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional comments? Commissioner McGorty?
I would just like to address some errors in the speaker who just talked. Right now, there's no fees being charged to anybody for groundwater management. That's going to be studied in the future, and LAFCO will have a chance to weigh in on it when the time comes. We're still in the study stages of trying to figure out exactly the depth and the extent of our underground resources and the interaction between surface and groundwater. So it's very early on. It's mandated by the state. It's not something that we have a choice in. So far, the state has paid for most of the studies. Nobody locally has paid for it directly. And, it'll take time for us, probably the next 5 years, to figure it all out. Thank you.
With all due respect, I get a charge on my bill for groundwater management. We are, in fact, paying for that. And they're proposing that we pay more with their, I can send you the PDF document from their last meeting if you like. But we are paying for that.
Sir, where exactly do you live?
I live in Mendocino, within the district.
Oh, the town of Mendocino. I'm sorry.
The town of Mendocino, within the Mendocino City Community Services District.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about the Ukiah Valley groundwater basin, which is completely different.
No, my apologies. This is in Mendocino.
Okay, you're right. You do pay fees, and it is managed.
It's not managed efficiently in any way, shape, or form, nor is it rational to think that we could save water here. Our water flows under the ground. Its next stop is into the ocean or into Big River here locally.
Thank you for your public comment today.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public wishing to speak during the public expression item? Okay, thank you. So we will close the public expression period and move to item 4. With the December transition, item 4, selection of interim officers. With the December transition in special district board seats, members Orth and Frohnberger rotated off of their respective boards and therefore the commission. Additionally, at last week's Point Arena City Council meeting, Mayor Ignacio resigned effective immediately and so also left the commission. With those changes, we lost our chair and vice chair. This item today is the selection of interim officers to lead the commission until the annual selection of officers for 2023. We typically do the annual selection in February after all appointments have been made and the commission has been set for the year. Are there any questions from commissioners or nominations for an interim chair?
I would volunteer myself. So I guess if anybody's interested, I'm happy to serve in that role for the next couple of meetings.
I would second that nomination if nobody else wishes to step up.
So we have a nomination and a second. Any comments from the commission? Any comments from the public? Okay, Larkin, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden, Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes?
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Larkin. And Chair Mulhern, with that, I will hand it over to you for a selection of a vice chair.
Okay. Are there any nominations for the vice chair, for interim vice chair?
I would nominate Commissioner Ward.
I'll second that, if he's accepting.
Fine.
Great. Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. And we can move on to item 5, the consent calendar. The following consent items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted on by the commission in a single action without discussion unless the request is made by a commissioner or a member of the public for a discussion or separate action. We have the November 7th, 2022 regular meeting summary, ratify the November 2022 claims and financial report, the 2023 meeting calendar, and certificates of appreciation for Commissioners Orth, Ignacio, and Frohnberger. Are there any items that commissioners would like to pull for separate consideration?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull them all except for items 5C.
You'd like to pull everything except for item 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we, is it,
I'm not-
I'll just go ahead, I'll go ahead and begin. On, for the minutes, on page 8, there was a, maybe it's an ulterior motive, but it says Treasurer Roden. Maybe you want to be the future treasurer. It was up below the October claims totaling. And then on page 11, bullet number 9, I couldn't quite understand what it was saying after it says further city staff water careful. I'm not sure what that meant. And lastly, there was a lot of discussion from the city manager and the planning department from the city. I just wanted to ask Sage, did you read them, and did it reflect your actual discussion points? Because there was a lot of talk in there, the 4 or 5 pages of it. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was accurate. I assumed it is, but there was so much there that I thought I'd at least have a look at it. That's all for the minutes. With regard to the claims, you have bookkeeping. You didn't have any bookkeeping expenses this previous month, but yet you describe a lot of the activities for your duties. Usually you have some costs. I'm just curious why there was no cost for bookkeeping.
Usually the claims fall under the bookkeeping, and I just did those under my normal duties and didn't isolate it out.
Okay. And then the item with regard to the commission certificate appreciation, first of all, Tony Orth's, you have in here that he began in 06, but he served a total of 20 years. I think it's more like 18 years, 16 years. And I'm just wondering if, since Tony has been a very integral part of this commission for several years, maybe we'd look at something different than just a certificate for him, as opposed to just a piece of paper. Just some thought. That's all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have comments or items they wish to pull? And are there any members of the public that have items they wish to pull or questions on the consent calendar? I'm not seeing any hands from where I am. So I would look for a motion for approval as amended.
So move.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner McGorty,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
and Chair Mulhern.
Yes.
And motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 6A, a public hearing, City of Ukiah Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update Study and potential approval and findings pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. Would you like to start this off, Uma, please?
Yes, thank you. Larkin is going to be doing a presentation on this, and I would note for the record that we have a number of members of both agencies available today. We have City Manager San Giacomo and Community Development Director Craig Schlatter, and we also have Jesse Davis on the staff. And for the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, we have the General Manager Wing C and Board Member Candace Horsley.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. This is item 6A, again, a public hearing for the City of Ukiah Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update Study and potential approval and findings pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. As background, the City of Ukiah was incorporated in 1876 as a general law city. The city limits include 4.7 square miles, serves a rough population of 16,000, and provides full city services, including 12 municipal services. And proposed adoption of the City of Ukiah MSR SOI update study, which starts on page 28 of the packet. The Commission held 2 workshops in September and November of this year to receive comments and revisions on the study. There is a list of revisions made since the November workshop, and it starts on page 28 of the packet. And there are also MSR determinations on page 163 of the packet and SOI determinations on page 178 of the packet. The proposed sphere of influence for the City of Ukiah is the city's 2040 general plan proposed SOI boundary, and that is shown as yellow on this slide. The proposed SOI encompasses territory of existing wastewater and water agencies in support of consolidation efforts. The SOI also includes territory located west of the city limits for the Western Hills annexation proposal. And in addition, the planning area for the city's 2040 general plan is recommended as an area of interest for enhanced coordination with other agencies, and that is shown in pink on this slide surrounding the yellow SOI proposed boundary. So the 21-day public hearing notice was properly published, posted, and distributed by November 28th, and no public comments have been received to date. In regard to CEQA, the City of Ukiah, as lead agency for the Sphere of Influence update, certified an environmental impact report in connection with the city's 2040 general plan on December 7th, 2022, which included an SOI analysis. The Commission, as a responsible agency, will consider affirming the city's 2040 general plan EIR and consider adopting the city's findings of fact, statement of overriding considerations, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program in connection with consideration of the SOI update today. And just to note, the city documents, including the City Council resolutions, start on page 204 of the packet. The city's notice of a determination begins on page 236 of the packet, and the general plan final environmental impact report is on page 237, and the draft environmental report is on page 451 of the packet. And the staff recommendations are first to find the City of Ukiah MSR is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to Title 14 of the California Code of Regulations, Section 15306, and approve the notice of exemption for filing. And second, to adopt LAFCO Resolution 2022-23-06, approving the City of Ukiah MSR SOI update, and certifying the Commission has considered the environmental effects identified in the EIR, State Clearinghouse Number 2022-050556 for the project, and adopting environmental findings pursuant to CEQA, and adopting a statement of overriding considerations. And these recommendations are further detailed in the staff report on page 28. And that does conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I would like to take questions, comments, or concerns from the Commission first, and then open it up to the public. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to relay at this point?
I'd like to listen to the public first.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the public comment. Hearing it.
Good morning, Commission. C.H. San Giacomo, City Manager for the City of Ukiah. I just once again want to thank the Commission and LAFCO staff and our partners with the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, Wing C, Candace, and Ernie, Mark, thank you, and the rest of the team. This has been a long time coming. I appreciate the Commission's due diligence in this item, the number of public hearings that led up to this item today that hopefully makes this an easy decision for the Commission. We're happy to answer any additional questions that the Commission might have, but once again, thank you for all the work that's gone into this.
Thank you. I am not seeing anyone else come forward. And there are no hands raised on Zoom, so I will bring it back to the commission. Member McGorty?
So I have a question regarding the agricultural land. Also happens to be a lot of floodplain and floodway, and it also coincides a lot with potential groundwater infiltration basins for future management of the Ukiah aquifer. And I really couldn't find anything specific in the plan to address that. I don't know if I missed it, or if somebody who's here would care to address how the city of Ukiah is going to look at that. I guess what I really don't want to see is more development that's likely to flood.
Thank you. It looks like we have Jesse from the city of Ukiah coming forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to address you with regards to this question, Commissioner McGorty. I would say there are a number of goals and policies and action items actually within the city's recently adopted general plan, particularly to allow for groundwater recharge, also to avoid development in the floodplain itself. So with those considerations, as well as agricultural preservation considerations, I believe that the city is well positioned to ensure that groundwater recharge in those areas, particularly to the east of Highway 101, will be well situated to ensure that that area is recharged over the coming years.
And for existing urban use that we have, will there be more? I'm not familiar with the zoning, say like along Babcock Lane and Perkins Street.
So, good question. The city's 2040 general plan is primarily geared towards infill development, so building in and building up. There are, as a consideration for any general plan, it's important to ensure consistency. So the area along Babcock Lane is still consistent with its current zoning. There were no changes that would alter the intended development for those areas. And again, our general plan for the city of Ukiah is geared towards focusing on infill development and redevelopment of our existing city streets, especially with regards to our downtown core. But again, to address your question, the zoning is consistent and has not been altered to inform some new type of development.
So given the climate change, we're expecting to have more rainfall events, let me phrase this correctly, more intense rainfall events where we could have somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And given that Ukiah Valley has 160 or so tributaries, that many of them that run into the city, has that been taken into consideration as you're planning for the future?
It has, and I would actually point to our environment and sustainability element with our goals and policies to conserve and protect many of our water resources. And some of those include Environmental Policy 4.4, which is river and creek preservation. So we're actively thinking about the water courses we do have and ensuring that they are protected in the sense that they won't be altered to ensure that appropriate flow into the Russian can continue.
Because we have many that have been extremely altered, where they go underground in tunnels and things like that. And remembering the one time where it rained 7 inches in 24 hours on New Year's Eve 2005, the Russian River had a major flood event, probably the largest in almost 100 years. And I think we need to take into consideration that 3 inches of rain will bring the river up over its bank if the soils are saturated, and we have 3 inches in 24 hours. So we have to be thinking about absorbing large amounts of water if we do have these cataclysmic type rainfalls.
Absolutely, and the city's EIR did consider those aspects of more intensive, storm events such as the ones you describe. And with regards to some of our undergrounded creeks, one of the goals of our environment and sustainability element is to actively support the use of natural waterways within the city and avoid any new waterway channelization, collaborating with local and regional agencies to restore channelized waterways where feasible. And I'm reading that verbatim from our environmental and sustainability element just to indicate to you how specific the city and how intentional has been with understanding this issue and making sure that we're in a position to address intensive storm events with regards to rainfall, but also thinking about other natural disasters, if you will, with regards to intensified heat events and things like that. So in all aspects, the city has put the environment and sustainability element at the forefront of our general plan.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners that have questions or comments? Mr. Gonzalez?
Yeah, mostly just wanted to thank both parties coming forward. I was really moved by when I read the minutes. I did pay attention to the city manager's comments. I didn't catch Treasurer Roden's appointment there, but I was moved when he said the unprecedented level of cooperation between the both of you, and I really am happy. Willits went through its own spat with a neighboring district, and it wasn't productive for either organization. And in the end, it's the ratepayers that lose when we don't get along, and so I just wanted to thank both of you for coming together. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Roden and then Commissioner Ward.
Well, in the spirit of gratitude, I want to continue it and extend the gratitude to LAFCO staff because we have this really beautiful, comprehensive document. Well, we have two. We have one for the sanitation district and one for the city. And I'm so grateful that we were able to do this in-house and work closely, together. I think it happened faster, probably less expensively than it might have otherwise happened. And this is so many years in the making. And a lot of the problems had to do with we just didn't have the right staff at LAFCO. And now things are moving like a well-greased engine, or whatever the metaphor is. So I want to say thank you so much to LAFCO staff for doing such a good job in shepherding this process through. It's a real big milestone. We should all recognize what a great thing this is. So thanks. Oh, and I would move the recommended action. Can I do both at the same time, 1 and 2?
You may, yeah.
I do.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
We
Mr.
haven't
Ward?
closed the public hearing either.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what the other two had said about the cooperation. A year ago, I didn't think it would go forward with all the issues that we were faced with. Some of us were on the commission, but it was a pretty delicate situation. And back in, I believe, '04 was when we first tackled the MSR SOI. There was a big issue on the ESSUs and stuff, and so we've come a long ways. And Commissioner Roden said it has been a cooperation that we really needed, and hopefully this kind of stuff will continue to go forward. I'm not sure that I'm still a little confused about, and I'll talk about it at the next agenda item, but what's going to happen to the sand district in the future, the consolidations or a subsidiary or whatever, but I do want to elaborate on that a little bit later, but I think it's more appropriate the next agenda item. But there's a lot going on, I realize, with consolidated water districts possibly, obviously annexations coming before the commission now that this will pass. I'm sure will pass. There's a lot of things that I think we need to be really looking closely at and making sure that the efficiency of services are provided, because that's our main goal here. So other than that, thank you for working together, and I believe Uma Larkin, you did an excellent job. I've seen a lot of other past MSRs, but this one was excellently done. But please, 992 pages I can't read it all in 4 days. So
That was special for you, Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ward. Before we close the public hearing on item 6A, I would again ask if there's any public comment in the room or on Zoom. Oh, please come forward.
Good morning, Commission. Craig Schlatter, Community Development Director, City of Ukiah. I'm just echoing the sentiments that many are expressing today, and especially to Commissioner Ward's comments. I remember a year ago when we were discussing this, and you're totally correct in that we have outstanding LAFCO staff that has really led this effort. We're very fortunate to be able to collaborate with LAFCO on this. We really appreciate the commission's input as well at all the public hearings and workshops we've had leading up to this. I think it made for a stronger document. And then finally, our partnership, of course, with Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, I think has led to 2 documents that are actually really well done and we're very proud of. So thank you.
And with that, I will close the public hearing on item 6A, and we do have a motion on the floor, so if we get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Roden? Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner McGordy?
Yes.
And Chair Mulhern?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 6B, a public hearing for the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update Study and Finding of Exemption pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you, Chair Mulhern. And I will again pass this over to our analyst, Larkin Filer, for presentation.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing, item 6B, for the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update Study and Finding of Exemption pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. As background, the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District initially formed in 1954 as a county-dependent district. It was reformed in 2008 as an independent special district. The district boundary is 6.62 square miles in size and includes portions of the city limits and the greater Ukiah Valley area. The district serves a resident population of roughly 9,400 and is a single service provider providing sewer collection services. This slide shows the overlap area as shown in the green areas inside the yellow boundary located to the north, south, and east of the city limits. And this is a public hearing to consider public testimony and proposed adoption of the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District MSR SOI update study, which starts on page 903 of the packet. The Commission held 2 workshops in September and November of this year to receive comments and revisions on the study. And there is a list of revisions made since the November workshop on page 903 of the document. There are also MSR determinations on page 955 of the packet, and the SOI determinations are on page 966 of the packet. So the proposed SOI for the district is a coterminous sphere, which is the same as the jurisdictional boundary of the agency. The district and city have an agreement on the interim and long-term plan for the provision of wastewater services in the region. There will be no detachment of district overlap areas or consolidation with the city until certain thresholds are met. The milestone agreement represents a significant evolution in the relationship between the agencies and supports the financial viability of the district in the interim. In addition, there are 3 areas of interest designated, as you can see on this map. One is for the overlap area, shown in brown. One is for the Western Hills area, shown in pink. And one is for the Masonite and Brush Street area, shown in blue. And again, that's 1 overlap area and 2 proposed annexation areas, which are proposed for area of interest designations. The 21-day public hearing notice was properly published, posted, and distributed by November 28th. No public comments have been received to date, and the Sanitation District MSR SOI update is exempt from CEQA as outlined in the resolution on page 982 of the packet. And the staff recommendations are: 1, to find the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District MSR is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to Title 14 of the California Code of Regulations, Section 15306, And find the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District SOI update is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Title 14 of the California Code of Regulations, Section 15061B3, and approve the notice of filing for exemption. And 2, adopt LAFCO Resolution number 2022-23-07, approving the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District MSR SOI update. And these recommendations are further detailed in the staff report on page 903 of the packet. And that does conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. Before we open the public hearing, I am going to look towards the commissioners and see if they have any specific questions or comments that they would like for members of the agencies to address.
I do.
Mr.
I'll
Ward?
start. The SOI for the Sand District this is their first one, basically. I mean, there was a Zion report back in '84, I think. What's the difference? Is this the same one?
The LAFCO records are not complete on the sphere of influence from 1984 for the sanitation district. There's been a number of times over the years that LAFCO has considered and discussed what the 1984 sphere was for the sanitation district, but there's never been a complete record through LAFCO on that. So we've not been able to determine what it was.
And then there was some out-of-service areas that we're adding to it potentially because of the possible annexations. Is that going to be incorporated into the SOI now or later?
The interim agreement lays out how the interim services will be provided between the city and the sanitation district in the areas surrounding the sanitation district boundaries. We will actually be having a public hearing in January on that out-of-area service agreement that lays out, that is based on that interim agreement for service provision.
Okay. Can you explain to me, maybe a crystal ball, what do you think if all of the agreements between the two agencies do occur, annexation occur, what's the end result for the Sand District? What are we looking at?
I think that might be a question that we'll have the team from the Sand District address when I open the public hearing. Did you have additional questions that you needed?
I'll wait.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing and then we can see if you'd like to address that question.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I do want to highlight our sphere of influence because it is really a milestone that we have reached. There, historically, I think the Sand District has looked and assumed a much larger sphere of influence with a lot more overlap with the city. And with us agreeing with LAFCO for a coterminous sphere of influence, it really is a statement of the district saying, at this point, we don't intend to grow. We don't intend to annex further. Of course, there are a lot, as you said, a lot more work to be done in working with the city in terms of consolidation of services or actual consolidation or subsidiary district. But it is a huge statement here of a coterminous sphere of influence. And even with the out-of-area service agreements that will be coming forth, we are working with the city's sphere. The city will be applicant under their sphere of influence, and it's almost like a subcontract with the Sand District. So this has really been a lot of work on both sides. Everyone has a lot at stake, and it really speaks to everyone's commitment to make sure we're making the right decisions, as everyone has said, for the ratepayers, while staying true to our current customers and our fiduciary duty to our current customers. So all along the way, the district's priority really has in this process been, we want to make sure that we aren't cannibalized, that we maintain our financial strength, until which point when the district either merges with the city or is a subsidiary. So again, the sphere of influence right now is coterminous. There is no current intention to grow the sphere, at least in the term of when we would be looking at the sphere of influence again.
Madam Chair, question?
Yes, Mr. Ward.
What is a subsidiary, or what does the consolidation mean to you? Is it a bit more of a dissolution? We just, the sand district goes away? Is that what the intent is down the road?
Yes, I think the details still need to be worked out because we need to work within current statutes, current law to find out what threshold or agree to threshold or new legislation. So that path isn't entirely clear. There's still a lot of work to be done. But the idea is, yes, so at which point where the city can take over or a new agency can take over the entire district, that's the point where we would go away.
Yeah, I would like to see one agency. I mean, I don't think it's to have two. It doesn't make sense. Same reason why we shouldn't have 5 water districts. Is there areas in your SOI, all your area in your SOI also is the SOI for the city of Ukiah? You don't service outside their SOI, do you?
So the overlap area is still within the Sand
Okay.
District sphere of influence?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
just couldn't
coterminous with
tell
other
from I
vendors.
think Mendocino College, you have El Dorado, probably Deerwood, you service out there. That's all within the SOI, I believe. It's hard to see on the maps. They're so damn small anyway, I can't read them. But so everything in your area is being serviced, will be within the SOI of the city of Ukiah?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. Go ahead. I'll think of some more.
Commissioner Roden.
I just had a question about the infrastructure. I don't quite, so like areas, let's say Ford Road, areas that around where Big Daddy's is, that, and I guess I understand they're on septic, and we hope to get that area, those areas, using the, wastewater treatment plant and all. But what is the infrastructure like there? How would future development hook in, and what needs to be done, and who would pay? So I was just wondering about those practical issues.
Yes, and we will further discuss this, I think, at the next meeting when the out-of-area service application comes through. But this is a good, I think, teaser for that because it is very important. That particular area of interest, as was mentioned in the previous report, is outside the district's boundaries and is an area of interest because the city has a pre-application, is fully intending to annex that area. But as you mentioned, Commissioner Roden, the connections would be to current Ukiah Valley Sanitation District infrastructure. And so, again, I think our goal has been to remove conflict, remove fighting over territory, fighting over customers, while maintaining our financial strength. And so I think we've come up with a good plan where that area is within the city's sphere of influence, not within the district's sphere of influence. And so in the interim, the city would be applying for the sphere of influence with the intention to annex that area into the city. Until that happens, or until there's a threshold that is met where the district can merge with the city, the district would be providing the services almost as a subcontract with the city. And then we would also pay for all the related costs. We would also collect the revenue from the customers. So in the interim, they would essentially financially be the sanitation district's customers.
How far is a sewer main line from that area, and what's involved in connecting development over there to Sand District lines?
So for that area, our main line does run up into those areas. And now this agreement is broader than just the current areas of interest, so we would have to discuss. It doesn't mean that every out-of-area service application from the city would be district customers, but yes, within the 30 feet of or 200 feet of the ordinance, where they would normally connect to the district customers, and normally you would expect an out-of-area service agreement from the Sand District, it will be coming in collaboration between the two agencies. I don't know if Sage, you had anything to add?
Just a little bit of an expansion to answer, I think, Commissioner Roden's question about planning in these areas. And virtually under the agreement and under this MSR, the city's sphere of influence that is outside of the city limits and within the existing overlap area, the sanitation district's in best position to serve those areas. And with infrastructure, that's at least in quite a bit of the developed area is there or nearby. And so with the agreement that we have with the sanitation district, we'll work with the sanitation district just as we are today, and we'll be you'll be seeing at the very beginning of next year, the out-of-area service agreement to serve in part some of this area through those out-of-area services agreements. But essentially, the city's SOI, and outside of the city's limits, again, the sanitation district is best equipped at this moment to serve within those areas, and the out-of-area service agreement will allow the commission the opportunity and afford the city and the district the opportunity to serve those customers with through the sanitation district. It eliminates all of the jockeying for position and the fighting that has been previously hindering services in these areas for decades. And, so the crystal ball that Commissioner Ward spoke to, really it opens up our ability to, again, serve these areas that need to be served through the out-of-area service agreement with the sanitation district providing services in those areas with LAFCO's approval for those out-of-area service agreements. That's the checks and balances in place. It will allow the city to move forward with annexations, but not detachment. And that ensures that the district's sanitation district, and hopefully the same type of agreements with the water districts in place, will ensure the financial viability of those districts and serving those customers in our valley are maintained until such time as we meet the thresholds that are in place with Cortese Knox or through special legislation that's agreed upon with the districts, with LAFCO, moving forward with the state. So a number of opportunities for continued collaboration and a pathway, both that short-term crystal ball and the long-term crystal ball and outlook that we have. Now, one other point with regard to infrastructure goes and planning goes well beyond just sewer service. And so the city, with the SOI, we're going to be looking at these areas on how to provide overall proper infrastructure and service in these areas as we annex, working with our counterparts at the county for annexation of these areas to ensure that we have proper roads, proper sidewalks, proper electricity, water services, parks, And so if you take a look at the city's history and the build out of the Redwood Business Park, specifically the recent history, we look towards infrastructure planning to provide proper infrastructure in place to service the areas as is deemed appropriate by the zoning, the general plans, and the community plans that have been designated for these areas, and investing in that infrastructure to ensure that those services are there, not just a single service, but all of the services that are necessary for successful communities.
Back to your crystal ball, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, what do you expect?
Well, the short term, which is, I think, really significant, especially what you'll see at the beginning of next year, either in January or February, hopefully, is the ability to provide service in these areas immediately. So you're going to see short-term impact of all of this work accumulating with the beginning of those services. Long-term, again, I think there's a lot of variables that play into it. We are very focused, and I think the community, and we know how important infill development is, and wanting to preserve our agricultural and open space areas in the Ukiah Valley, that we will want to have a relatively concerted effort for annexation to ensure that we don't have sprawl unnecessarily into areas that just aren't simply as well equipped to handle municipal level development. And we've seen in the Ukiah Valley the negative impact of that. And if we really want to steer clear of hitting a tipping point and getting beyond significant impacts, we will make a concerted effort for annexation of municipal areas that have developed outside of city limits to ensure that we have the right overall services that are needed for the success of those areas. I don't have to remind the commission that if you look just to the north and south of the city, and even to the east of the city, that we're surrounded by disadvantaged communities. In part, those disadvantaged communities develop because of the lack of services, municipal level services that are needed for their success. And so that's the tipping point that I point to, that we need to start working our way out of to provide the appropriate level of services, and everybody benefits from that.
Well, the momentum's there. I'd like to see the momentum continue. It's our charge here to see that the services are provided as efficiently as possible. Obviously, there's been some discrepancies in pricing for sewer and all that, but hopefully that'll get worked out. But unfortunately, boards change, personalities change. That was part of the problem in the past, is some of these board members in the past are looking for more power, and I don't want to see that change again. That was one of the reasons way back in '04 we were fighting the SOI and all, because of the animosity between people, not so much the boards overall, just people. And I don't. Right now we have a good staff on both sides, and I want to see this continue as quickly as possible. So for the benefit of everybody in this valley.
Absolutely, and we appreciate everybody here. I know LAFCO staff, the staff of the city and sanitation district, our discussions with the county and our county counterparts. We don't want to repeat, this dysfunction of the past that has hindered, services within the Ukiah Valley.
So you're going to be here for a while then?
Well, I hope so. But more importantly, the plans that are being approved today, these are not, while the SOI and the MSRs, will get reviewed on a regular basis as they should, I believe the checks and the balances and the direction in which we're setting with these strategic planning documents will continue to push forward with the implementation that we want to see today.
Well, thank you, Sage, but I've seen this since '04 and nothing's been done until today. So it's been a long process, and like I said, the momentum's going. Let's keep it going and get this done. The ratepayers need this done.
That is absolutely heard, and I'll say that while we're having this meeting today, there's another meeting with the water districts with consolidation efforts that is taking place right now amongst the legal teams of all of the districts and the city, to continue to push that forward. So we haven't been a one-trick pony in this. We are continuing to fire on as many cylinders as we possibly can, and again, pointing towards implementation. The proof is in the pudding, as you've pointed out, and we need to keep on delivering. Early next year, we're going to have the opportunity to continue to deliver on this plan, and we look forward to doing that.
Let's see those annexations coming.
Just want to add that of course, the relationships are very important, and we've worked really hard on building the relationships with the people that are currently here, but we're also thinking about long-term. We don't want it to be undone. Of course, we can't control what future elected bodies do, but we are doing everything we can to put things in agreement. So the agreement that you'll see in January between the Sand District and the city, it's pretty hard. The off-ramp is pretty long, and so we want to make sure that we're communicating an agreement that actually lasts. And at the end of the day, it really is about efficiency, because that is what translates into what ratepayers care about.
Exactly.
If we continue inefficiency, ratepayers will be unhappy because they'll see costs going up. So even of us talking about, eventually, if the Sand District goes away, our administrative costs, which aren't much, but they do go away as well. So all of these are going to be very positive for the community, for the ratepayers. So it's hard to see that a new elected body would fight against and kind of go in reverse with getting out of the agreement, which again would be very difficult, and then having this established sphere of influence document as well. So these are documents that will stay in place beyond when we're here. So.
Thank you. And I don't know what the district spent on legal fees, but I don't want to see that happen again. That was a waste of money for the ratepayers as well.
Please do check out our audited financials, and you'll be able to see what.
I know you're better off. You're better, but still.
Thank you very much. I do want to keep the public comment going before we bring it back to the commission. So additional public comment, please.
Thank you, Candace Horsley. I'm a Sand District board member, but also I was involved with the city of Ukiah for many years. So hopefully I've been able to provide a small bridge between the two agencies. Just 2 years ago, who would have dreamed that we'd be here today? But I think we have, in response to your questions, I think we have a majority of the board that's very committed to making this work. And that's why I ran again. I hadn't planned to, but considering where we are in the process, I felt it was very important. And I want to thank you for allowing this MSR and SOI process to be able to use staff and to do that, because the cost and how we were looking at it was causing a lot of controversy. This has helped bring us together. And I want to thank also the City of Ukiah. They rose above the acrimony of the past to work with us and with the new board and to work to this where we are right now. And it only took a year and a half to get here because they were willing to rise above that. And it wasn't easy considering what had gone on in the past. And I want to thank Wing C for her professionalism, for bringing this here. She was a neutral party. She helped guide us, and it was, I don't know how we could have done it without her. But I can tell you, we're committed as a board, a majority of the board, to making this work. And even if it takes 1 year, it takes 10 years, I think with the agreements that we're putting in place and what we have in place, it'll be fine. It'll work. And no matter who comes on the board, it will work, and it will continue to work.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have additional public comment? I'm not seeing any in the room, and there are no comments online. So I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Roden?
Again, a thank you to everybody. This is such a huge milestone, just as Candace was describing. And thanks again to our LAFCO staff for making it all work and coming up with such a comprehensive document. And so anyway, I would like to move the recommended actions.
Gonzalez will second.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have additional comments from the commissioners? Commissioner McGordy?
So this makes so much sense, and it's really nice as somebody who's a supervisor who sees a lot of things that don't make sense. It's really great that this is happening. You know, the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board is really kind of zeroing in on septic systems, so, you know, I hope there's going to be some ability and resiliency to absorb some other parts of the valley that presently aren't served. I think, especially in my district, Talmadge in that area, which is a logical place to grow if services are available and if there's good designs for communities. I think it would be fantastic. And then you look at all of the Regina Heights area. Someday the Regional Water Quality Control Board is going to make good on their desire to regulate septic systems in a way that no one's going to be able to afford to do it. And we're going to want to have options. And I think this is the beginning of the sort of resiliency that Ukiah Valley needs to embrace growth into the future. So thank you for everybody who's worked so hard on this. I'm also encouraged by the talks with putting the water systems together. That makes so much sense because, for one thing, relying strictly on surface water is going to be a problem for urban use, and our old traditional ways of depending on snow melt that's captured into reservoirs that's distributed then down through water courses isn't going to work in the future the way things are going. So having a groundwater tapped in to the system makes so much sense, and I'm really looking forward to some resolution and hopefully implementation of at least a way to deliver water from Redwood Valley to Talmadge.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to thank the staff too. It's a job well done. We've done a lot of MSRs over the last few years, and this one's probably one of the most important ones. So one of the reasons I put my hat in the ring for 4 more years is I'm hoping to see a consolidation of water districts in my next 4-year term, as well as some work together with the two districts or the city and the district to get together and work these things out for the betterment of the ratepayer. So I just want to thank again the comments that were made today, and I've heard a lot of talk in the last 22 years being on this commission. I think this is the first step forward that we can actually see some things getting done, and hopefully we keep that momentum. So Candace, I know you're on the board for a few more years. Maybe you can keep Sage in line and keep those things going. Thank you. Thank you
you.
very much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Again, I just want to echo what everybody else has said, and I want to see those annexations come forward in the future, and I want to see this be kind of the beacon of light for the rest of the county, so that as we go to clean up and the other municipalities start to kind of do that infill development, then I think that's important, and I think we're looking towards you people as the shining example.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call for a roll call, I will say that the term that strikes my mind the most is political will. And I don't think that there has ever been as much will for really cooperation for the best of our entire community. So I'm really looking forward to not only this action today, but future actions that really are meant to serve the Ukiah Valley and for future goals in Willits and Fort Bragg to support and serve our community without difference to the boundary lines. So it's an exciting time. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roden,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner McGordy,
Yes.
and Chair Mulhorn.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Good job.
Thank you,
guys.
everybody, for your work.
Now get to it.
All right. We'll move on to item number 7, workshop items, and there are none. So item number 8, matters for discussion and possible action. Uma, Commissioner, terms, recruitments, and elections.
Thank you. I feel like there's more. Wait a minute. Yes, okay, so you'll notice we are a few commissioners short. The special district election ended on November 11th without receiving a quorum of ballots. So per the CKH, the deadline has been extended 60 days to a new deadline of January 16th. We are only 2 ballots short of a quorum, so I am hoping that we receive those 2 ballots by the 16th, or there is another mandatory 60-day extension on that election process. So if you know of any special districts who have not yet voted, please mention it to them again. As the only nominee for the alternate special district seat, Francois Kristen from the Anderson Valley CSD is automatically appointed per statute. He is with us today. Thank you for coming, Mr. Kristen. And he will be sworn in at our January meeting. It looks to be that he will be immediately seated to fill a regular seat until the special district election is completed. We will also be initiating a new nomination and election process to fill Tony Orth's seat in the coming weeks. So we'll be sending that out and making notice. The public member term announcement was published in mid-September, and we received Commissioner Ward's application by the deadline. Our practice has been to do the public member appointments at the December meeting. However, the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act requires that the public member appointments be by majority with at least an affirmative vote from one of each category. Since we have no special district representation today, we will be moving that appointment to our next meeting. It does sound like the City Selection Committee will be meeting in late January or early February, so in the interim, Commissioner Gonzalez will be seated in Scott Ignacio's seat. And I have no further presentation unless there are questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Do we have any influence on the city selection committee? I mean, Jerry's been here for a long time, and I'd like to see the city managers at least recognize that he's been here, and hopefully.
The mayors.
Or the mayors, not the city managers, look at the mayors. Is there any way we could politic?
We provide a notice in December of the upcoming vacancies and the terms that we have on the commission, and then that decision is made internally. And I believe they have an internal process they go through. I'm not sure what that is, the specifics.
I realize we need somebody on the coast. I mean, that helps, but, we're going to have some issues coming up with Willits soon, and with annexations and all. It'd be nice to talk to the mayors. I guess I could do it on my own, huh? You're a mayor.
Yeah, you can talk to me.
Well, I would like to just offer a counterpoint, having served as a council member and as a mayor. I think because we have 4 incorporated cities, I actually think it's important that that position's rotated amongst the cities. I would actually like to see a formal policy that would initiate something like that. And if not all 4 cities, at least inland and coastal, because I do think it's important. So I guess it's my counterpoint argument for the city selection committee when they have their meeting. Moving on to item number, are you ready to move on, Uma? Okay, moving on to number 9, information and report items. We'll start with the work plan, current and future proposals.
Thank you, Chair Mulhern. We have a number of active proposals. City of Ukiah has the annexation of the Western Hills property, as well as an annexation of city-owned properties. Both of those we anticipate will be coming forward at the first quarter of next year. We have, at this time, both applications are incomplete, primarily pending the tax share and tax share agreement process. We also have an out-of-area service agreement for wastewater services. The applicant, it is a joint application with the City of Ukiah taking that lead. We have published a public notice for a public hearing on January 9th, so we will be bringing that forward to the Commission for consideration at that time. We have no other activity on the other applications at this time. We are anticipating an application from Anderson Valley CSD for annexation of their sphere of influence. That application has not been received yet, but they have gone through their own public noticing process for the resolution of application. Nothing new from the county on the CSA 3 activation of latent powers. And on page 990 and 991 of your agenda packet is a table outlining the current status of the applications and the work plan. And I have nothing further unless there are questions.
Thank you. I look for the commission questions. Mr. Ward?
Anderson Valley, why is it taking so long?
They did renotice their resolution of application so that they, because they had, I believe they had forgotten their CEQA portion of it or did not include the CEQA portion the first time around. I may be wrong on that, but I think that was the reason they decided to renotice that and to readopt.
Are you continuing with discussions with them?
I have been fielding questions from them, yes, and I don't know exactly when they will be submitting, but shortly.
How about Millview?
I have not heard anything from Millview in quite some time.
I just a lot of these are getting real stale, and I just wondered, instead of typing them out every month on our agenda report, find out what's going on.
That's correct. We do have that, have a policy on inactive applications, and at the beginning of the year, I think we'll start going through those and sending letters.
Thank you. I'm not seeing additional commissioner comments, so we'll move on to item 9B. Correspondence received.
We do have an award from the SDRMA regarding no claims in the last 5 years.
Congratulations.
Nothing further.
Thank you. CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report.
The only thing that we have in the agenda packet is their 2023 events calendar. I believe in March or April, they are having their staff workshop. Otherwise, they will be scheduling CALAFCO U courses, and we'll bring those forward when they're announced.
Thank you. An executive officer's report. Additional comments?
The only thing to report is the executive committee is made up of the officers. So we would like to schedule an executive committee report with the interim officers in early January, and I would love to hear your availability for immediately following the meeting on the January 9th.
Thank you.
Realize it's only going to be two members.
There will be the interim chair. Oh, yes, that's you. Right.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Did that include the committee reports then? So we can move on to,
Sure, yes.
okay, great. Commissioner reports, comments, or questions from any commissioners?
Yeah, I just want to get an update on Scott Brown. I haven't heard anything the last few months on his condition. Does Marcia have some information for us?
Yes, I do. Scott is doing very well physically. He has been doing some work and is visiting family right now for the holidays. But yeah, he is doing very well.
When do we expect him? Is there a date?
Well, that's a good question. And probably what we can do is I can have a conversation with Scott and maybe have him address that directly with you.
Nothing against you. You've done a good job. It just.
No. No, I understand. I definitely understand the question. So, yeah, I'll have a conversation with Scott, and maybe we can bring something, either bring Scott or something from Scott to the meeting, to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional commissioner reports, questions, comments? We could wish happy holidays and have a motion for adjournment.
So move.
I think they've all said yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays.